All right, so today I'm going to pick up where I left off with this lander. So I'll be working on some of the interactions for it, and I'll go ahead and start by selecting the hero. I'll head over to interactions here, go classic, switch to interactions with GSAP. I'm going to make this a scroll into view interaction just in case it's used later on down the page. Depending on where the section's used, it'll always be triggered. And I'll go ahead and just call this hero main. We'll call this hero main for now. So this is our interaction. Whenever this element comes into view, and I'll make this trigger whenever I'll say when the top of element is at bottom of screen, and so when the top of element is something like 70% past the top of the screen. And I won't use trigger actions here. So when it first crosses into view here, we'll do nothing. Then once it crosses past the 70% part, we'll play it. When it enters back here, nothing. And when it leaves back, we'll go ahead and reset. So that way it should trigger every time I scroll into view of that section. And I'll go ahead and create an action here. And this will be custom. And from the trigger, I want to go and select descendants. And I'm going to target this hero main span. And I'll say is 1. Let's believe that's what I called it. And I'll go ahead and split the text up by letters. And we'll go ahead and mask the letters. And we'll do a from to. We'll animate the letters from, let's go Y%. And we'll do push down by 100% of the letter's own height to 0%. So the letter's completely in view. And let's stagger them. I'll go ahead and do total time. And let's put a slight delay between them so we get something kind of like that. I'll have to fix the cropping of it. Let me see if I do 0.3, see what that does. A little bit more delay there. And then the easing for it is a power 1 out, so I think that's good. For the ease here, I'm going to do, let's try a back ease, or just to see what that feels like. Back out. Yeah, just a little bit of a bounce. I think that could be nice. Gives it some playfulness. And I'll call this something like heading 1. And then I want to animate this shape here. So I'll go ahead and I'll just go ahead and duplicate this whole step here. And I'll go ahead and rename this to be, we'll just call this shape. And I'll go ahead and target that descendant. It's going to be hero main SVG. And don't need any kind of split on this. Don't need any stagger. I'm going to do rotate first of all. So try rotate. We'll just do rotate to, let's say from 0 to 360. Let's see what that looks like. Let's do -360, so it goes the opposite way. So it should just kind of spin into view like that. Let me try, it's a little extreme, so I'll make the ending be 0, and I'll rotate from -30 or something like that. Let's see what that feels like. 30 might not be quite enough. Let's do -180. Yeah, it's going the wrong way, so it must be positive. Let's see. Yeah, that feels better. It's kind of going, let's try from 90 degrees. So it's just kind of going to spin in like that. And I'll also animate at scale. Let's go from 0 to 1. And I want the scale to happen. Ideally, the scale would happen slower. I don't know if it needs a back ease on it either. I don't know. It's kind of nice how it matches the text. That might be all right. And then I want that to happen. Let's see if we zoom out a little bit. I want that to happen towards the end of the heading animation. So heading 1 kind of finishes animating almost before the shape comes in. And then let's go over here. Let's duplicate and let's call this one heading 2. And let's go ahead and select that hero main span with the class of is2. So we're grabbing that second one. And I'm going to animate it from, let's say from a move of, we'll do move X, go from -2m, something like that. Let's see what that looks like. -2m. Let's see. Oh, I'm using X%. Move X. There we go. Let's see what that looks like. From -2m to move X of 0m. Doesn't seem like it's actually moving, so the heading here is set to inline, which can't be animated, so I'll just switch it to inline block, and then it should be animatable. So let's try that. Let's see if I can get it to animate. Here, hero main span is 2. Oh, I didn't give this one a combo yet. Let's do that now. All right, let's see. So basically, this is too far. Let's try negative 0.9. Looks good. And then basically I want it to look like the shape is pushing the heading out of the way. So let me see. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. And then I'm also going to stagger. So I'll call this heading to move, and then I'll also probably stagger the second heading in. Let me see. Let's see if we pulling up this. Okay. So here we are. Let's duplicate. Just had to pull up the comments to see. Cool. Let me duplicate this, and then I'll call this heading to stagger. All right. And then so this one will go ahead. Actually, you know what? Let's just duplicate this one so it's more consistent. There we go. Heading to stagger. And then let's move this down here like that. We can sort. There should be, let's sort everything by start time. And then we'll switch this out for is2. And so basically, let's see. We might need to get rid of, let's see. Let me bring this up some so I can see the whole thing. Might need to get rid of this stagger. I was hoping that it would fit. Let's see. I'll move this to just a simple power 1 out instead of a back. And what I might need to do is let the stagger start to happen before the shape. Maybe it's just a simple, just changing the timing a little bit. Let's see what that looks like. So it would stagger, then the shape. Yeah, that's what we're going to need to do. And let's push the heading back a little. No, other way. So the heading needs to start to move sooner. Let's see. Yeah, that feels better. Something about the rotate is kind of strange. Let me push the shape back a little more. Yeah, that might be too much. We want it to feel like the shape's pushing the heading out of view. So something like that, I think, is good. I might even take the back ease off of the... maybe I'll leave it on the shape. Let's see. It does feel like quite a lot going on, so I'm going to have to simplify some. Yeah, and the back ease with the mask and all is quite a lot too. Let's see. Let's take the mask off for a second, and let's just try opacity instead, from opacity 0 to 100. And then I'll do the same here. Take the mask off, opacity 0, 100. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. All right, so maybe if I play with the timing and also I'll match the ease on both of them. So we have power 1 out, and I'll maybe slow down the duration just a little. 0.7. No, never mind. Keep it fast and snappy. Okay. I'm going to greatly reduce that rotation amount. Let's go back to like 30 like I had it before and see if we just simplify that a little bit. Yeah. Okay. And then I would like the stagger to still be kind of going on by the time this finishes. And I think it is. The bounce is still going on a little bit. I might just take these two and move them up just a little bit more. So that way it feels like the motion all ends about the same time. Yeah. I might end up changing this animation a bit, but for now, this will be a starting point for that. So then these elements, I really just want to stagger them in. So the paragraph here has a class on all paragraphs components called cText. So I can stagger that in. It's a component class. And then I can stagger in the children of this hero main buttons component. So what we'll do is open this. Let's duplicate this. I'll call it other elements for now. And I'll go ahead and target the cText, which is the component class on that paragraph. And then the hero main buttons wrapper, I'll find its direct children like this. And the comma just separates both of them. So I'm animating both the paragraph and the children inside of this button wrapper. And I don't need to split them. And I do want to stagger them. And I want to push them down by just a rim amount instead of Y%. So let's go move Y. Since they each have a different height, I don't want to use percent because then it would feel like they're all moving at a different amount. So yeah, that's pretty good. And then we can just speed that way up. Let's see. We don't need a back ease. We can do power 1 out. We can do duration of 0.3. We can stagger it 0.15 between each one of them. And then we should get something like this. It still feels a little slow. Let's see. Let's go 0.2. All right, this is good for now. And then the images is what I'll do next. So for the images, let's see. What I want to do is I want to transform them over, and I want this SVG to stay with the image when I'm moving it. So I'm probably going to need another div. I'll call this hero main image. This will be the element, and I'll put these together. And this will just be 100% width and height of its parent. And I'll go ahead and just drop a div in here. And then this is the element, copy that, put that in there, and copy that. All right. So basically I want to take this element class and apply transform, and it's going to move it over like this. So that they slide into view, and because they're all inside a parent that has different rotation amount and transform amounts, then it's going to look like they're coming in on slightly different angles. Like this one is sliding down, and this one should be sliding upward a bit. So that's the idea anyway. So let's go back to our interaction, and I'll go ahead and duplicate this, and I'll change this to be images, and we'll go ahead and select for the descendant. It's going to be that hero main image element, and we want to move them on X, and it'll be from 100 VW, so they're completely out of view, to 0 VW. and we can still stagger them, that's fine. So we should get, we're going to need to greatly slow it down. Let's go 0.8. See what that feels like. Yeah, so you can't really see them moving too much at first. So right there, I'm going to bring it forward a little bit. There we go. I want these to feel like they're all kind of ending at the same time. So there we go. And I think I'm good with the stagger there. I might want to ease the stagger. Let's see if we go, let's go power 4 out just to see what that looks like. Yeah, I don't notice much of a difference there. And let's try power 4 in. Yeah, and those all feel like they're starting at pretty much the same time. Yeah, I don't think easing the stagger is going to be much of a difference here. Cool. All right, yeah, so let me just see what that looks like on mobile here. So if I were to just to play this, let me bring this down a bit. Play it here. Images kind of come in. The text is animating up. I think that's good there. And then the only other thing I have to reveal is the marquee, which I can do here. So it's a class of marquee wrap. So let's go here. Let's duplicate the other element one. That's probably the closest one to what we need. And let me select here. And then this is marquee wrap. And this will animate from all the similar settings, I think is good. So this is gonna slide up. Yep, and we're only animating marquees inside of the current hero section, so it's not gonna affect other marquees throughout the site. I might even have it rotate when it does. So let's see, where is that rotate here? Go from 10. Let's go -4 to 0. And let's make it slide up a little bit further, like that. I might try the other way. Let's try +4. So it's, yeah, I think that's better. Might go a little bit more there. We don't need the stagger. The duration can be a bit slower. That way it's just bringing this side up while the images come in. I think that's good there. All right, cool. Yep, that'll work for that intro animation, at least for now. And then let's rename that to be Marquee. And let's sort them all here by their start times. And I might push the Marquee back just a little bit. Let's see. Okay. All right, cool. That'll work for now for that section. And then if I go back over here, so I have this next section, it's going to be this overlay, but underneath that it needs to play a YouTube video. So let's see, let's build that out. I think I'm going to probably build this with a custom component as well. Let me finish setting up this one first. Let's see. Let's go to the props. First prop is always the visibility prop. And then from there, we have anything else we need to control. So this one is going to be called padding top. And then this next one is padding bottom. And let's see. Other things we might want to control. I'm going to connect pretty much everything up to a prop. So let's see. Paragraph. We'll put in a paragraph group called visibility. And we'll put the text in that group. and then the buttons as well. So let's go, let's see. I'll keep the visibility here tied to, let's connect it to button 1. So this will be button 1 visibility. All right, create that, and then I have button 1 text. We'll go here, and then button 1 link, and let's do the same for button 2. So that'll be here. We have button 2 visibility, and then button 2 text, and let's go button 2 link. All right, and then just the images. So I'll go ahead and say this is don't need visibility for these, so this will just be image 1. Then I'll have image 2, and we'll have image 3. Okay, and so that should be all our props. So we have our top and bottom padding, we have our image 1, 2, and 3, section visibility, heading 1 text, heading 2 text, heading font size, paragraph visibility, paragraph text, button 1, and button 2. And yeah, that looks good there. So that's all the props I need for that. This next section, I think I'm going to build it probably a similar way. We're not going to need the theme prop. I'll build this as a custom section. So I'll go ahead and do section, and we'll go ahead and call this is section media wrap. So this will house our media, and then we'll go spacer and div inside here. Here we go, section media contain. It's going to have the container class, and inside there I want the vertical text. I need that eyebrow, which we're using in not a lot of places, honestly. Maybe here, and then not too many other places. So I'll go ahead and drop in that. I'm going to put it in a content wrapper, and then inside I'll have the eyebrow. Under that I'll have the heading, and I'll go ahead and change this out here. And we don't really need the marker on this, so I can delete that element. This is more of, this is an H5 style, which is bold, but it has looser letter spacing. Okay, we'll switch that over to H5, and I'll head over to typography. Let's go text style, actually. So H5 will go for the text transform. That's letter spacing. Let's go text transform here. We're going to go uppercase. Letter spacing, I'm going to create a unique one. So we'll go ahead and create a size variable here called loose. And that can be, we just said 5%. Let's keep it at 0.05 m. And then for the H5, that'll be here. And then for the weight, we want bold. And I think that should be good. 24 pixels, which I can check that in Fluid Builder here. And then we check that H5 font size here, 24 pixels, so that's good. And then I think that should be it for that part at least. So we have that. Bold feels really bold here. Might need to update that. And then this H2 is going to be bold as well, which I think all of my headings right now are. Let's go here. What are they set to right now? pretty much mediums across the board. So I think across the boards we're going to be using bold here. So I'll switch that for all of them. And except I think the H6 was the only one that uses medium in this design. Yeah, medium. Okay, so that's good. And then let me just copy some of this text. And I'll paste that into there. And then let's give it an alignment of center. And let's see. Here, I think what's going to have to happen is on mobile. I think on mobile, what would be nice is if these two kind of just stacked under each other a little bit and they went side by side like that when we run out of space. And then they eventually wrap under each other completely. So let's see. Let's set that up. I'll start with the media. So we'll call this section media. We'll call this visual wrap. And then we'll give that inside. We'll give it an aspect ratio. I know these are always going to be 16:9. We'll give it position relative. And inside I'll have the image element. And inside here I'll have the play button, and I'll go ahead and switch this over to flex and center. And then let me give this a class, section media. I could just do a utility on the button if we want it. If we give it a class of absolute, then it should rest on top of, let's see, this is relative. Position absolute. Oh, I think the button has some a default position that's overriding it. Let me give it a section media visual button, and then I'll put this inside. Yeah, and that way I can more easily target this class for fading it in and out when needed. And this will be the secondary style, and the sizing on this is 88, which we have here. We'll set that on the base variant. We'll go 88. Okay. And then let me go ahead and just grab this image. So I'll pull that over here. Let's go here and size it way up. So I'll keep it sized somewhere around here, like that. And then let's export it as a JPEG. And I'll go ahead and put this in assets, and I'll call this sermon image. And then let's run this through TinyPNG. And so I'll go to desktop, assets, sermon image, throw that in there, and then download that. And so let's upload it into here. All right. And then I'll just go ahead and compress that into WebP. And then I'll go ahead and choose that image here. Cool. So what I'm going to need is probably a layout. I want this to be, first of all, it needs to span like 10 columns. So I'll go ahead and create a layout. So this was layout, and I'll give it the UGrid custom, and I'll go ahead and drop the visual in there. And let's see, this visual is right here. Let's give it a grid column, and let's make it span over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 of them. So span 8 like so. And let's go ahead and drop a div. So I want these two grouped together on mobile. So I'm going to call this content, and I'm going to set it to display contents. So that way we're removing that div entirely on desktop. And I'll go ahead and drop another div in here, and this is going to be called text wrap. And then inside of that, I'll have a text element, which I'll probably just do paragraph component here. and I believe this is the H5 style, so I can throw that on right here, and I'll go ahead and duplicate that and switch this one out here. And this one is going to need to have a class of is1 that moves it to an order of -1, so it's at the beginning of the list, and it can have a grid column start, and let's say start on 2, so that pushes everything over. And then let's see, what is that property? CSS vertical writing mode. I always had to look that one up. Writing mode, and then we can do this one here. Left to right is probably okay. And so I'll put that on this base class, and then that should switch that over. And then we are going to, looks like it's anchored kind of a little strangely. Let's go here. There's some margin too on the paragraph that just comes with the margin, the paragraph element. So I'll clear that off. Let's go ahead and flex this to, can't flex it because the vertical writing is on the text wrap. Might need one extra class. I'll call this text inner, and I'll move that vertical writing mode here onto this element, writing mode, and then I'll move that into there, and then just move this one in here. Okay, there we go. And then this element can now be flexed like so. Why is it not? Oh, this is the height on, the sizing on this is weird. Let's say width of auto, width of 100%. Why is the width on this so wide? That's weird. Let me try dropping in just a regular text box and then giving it that same class. Let's see if that does. Yeah, it works there. Why is that? Let me see real quick what's going on here. On this element, it has nothing there that matters anyway. And then on this, it has the font size and stuff. It doesn't have any margin. Margin bottom should be removed, and it is. Is like the problems with this div. We have not quite sure what's going on there. For now, I'll go ahead and just move it, I guess, over to this element for now. We'll give it the H5 class, and then I'll just copy this over. And then, let's see, copy and paste that over here, copy it over. All right, there we go. And then so on this variant, I just want to do this, and that's written the correct way. This one is not. Actually, I might not even need to change the flex alignment if I just rotate and do something like this. And then that should do it. So that keeps it good there. On the container, I can give it a little bit of gap just so I'm not worried about having to clear anything out. And let's see. That's pretty good there. And then we'll just keep it pretty much that way for some time until we see that it's like here it's starting to overflow. The height of the text is taller than the image, so we don't want that. So I'll give it a little bit of buffer too, but let's go ahead and just in case some dates are longer and stuff. Let's go here. Let's go at container. Let's go width. Let's see if the width is less than, I always just default to 50em and then adjust from there if needed. Let's go ahead and set the layout, which is this element on smaller screens to layout. That'll be display flex. and that'll make everything stack under each other. And then to group these back, all I had to do is give this a display, this parent that holds the two text elements together. And I'm probably going to go display flex on that as well. And so that will bring the two text elements back together. And then we can clear the writing mode and the rotate, I guess. What is this writing mode? Yeah, just writing mode. Go here. And I'll go here. And we'll do writing mode unset. So that'll remove that. And then I want to remove the rotate off this text wrap. Text wrap. Transform unset. And that should clear. Let's see. Oh, it's on a combo class. So there is one combo class. So that's why the CSS isn't overriding it. There we go. It's one. Nice. And then I want these to have a gap and to be spaced apart and all that. So I think what I'll do is temporarily just kind of get these working the way I want it to work on mobile. So it would space apart, it would allow wrapping, it would have some kind of gap. And then I can add the display contents back on. And so that way on mobile, we get this kind of thing, like the flex that we want, and also the wrapping that we want, which is here, and yeah, the gap and everything. Cool. I don't love how that's working though, because yeah, I want the alignment to be centered to match the heading alignment. What can we do? Yeah, I might not be able to do the auto flex wrap here like I was hoping for. So let's go back and let's do, so we'll leave it, we'll have to leave the flex wrap on this parent div flex, remove the wrapping so they can't stack under each other. Display of contents, and so that way they're just kind of stuck like that. And then we'll have to switch the flex direction on this parent on a smaller screen size. So at container, if the width is smaller than 30 for instance, then we can grab that that div, and we'll give it flex direction. Let's go columns, and that just makes it stack under each other. And it's there, that should be good. Let's see, where is it? Yeah, it's kind of, it doesn't have a lot of room, like a lot of room before it collapses here. So it could run into issues if the text is a little bit larger. Let's back that up a little bit, 35 even. Yeah, so that gives us a little bit more space to play with before it has to wrap. I think that's good. And then it'll go to centered. And yeah, and maybe when it does wrap, we move the date to be below potentially, since that's the less important. So that would just be this one. This is one. And I would just give that an order of 1, which pushes it down to the end of the list. And that moves it down there. And yeah, that looks pretty good for that layout at least. So then I'll connect this up. So we'll go call this section media, and we'll put it in the section group, and we'll create, and we'll connect all the props. So this is visibility. One thing I wanted to do, forgot to do here, is make this custom element with a tag of section, and that just allows us to connect the tag up to a prop if needed, and use the style attribute and all the other stuff. So yeah, switch that back over. Cool. All right, and then yeah, so that's the visibility. Then I'll have the spacers again. Probably should have created a more simplistic starter to duplicate. I didn't want to duplicate the starter simple because it had props I didn't need. Let's see, but I probably could have created a more simplistic one, so I'm not having to redo this all the time. Padding top and padding bottom is there, and then the heading here. So this is a component that I think the content will be saved in the component, so that when they drop the latest message on different pages, it'll always be up to date. With the content is saved in the component itself. So I'm probably not going to connect this all up to props, but I think that is good there. And then the hover is not working right because this needs a theme of dark. So I like to just move this into the class attribute so that way it's out of the way. It's not getting in my way when I'm trying to style things in the style panel. And I didn't set up my theme dark kind of button stage yet, so yes, I should do that. Let's go here. Let's go to the buttons, which are actually, they're up by color. Here we are. Yeah, so this is not quite right. So yeah, the primary and secondary buttons are the same. They just hover light versus hovering dark. In dark mode, there's really not a secondary. There's not like a secondary color, so I think that the secondary can stay white like it is here. Let's go theme. Let's go. Yeah, for the button secondary, its color is light 100. Its background matches that, and its text can be. I'm just gonna make this be dark like that, so that way it stays consistent across all of them. And then the hover, whenever we're inside dark mode, I think what we can do is, let's see, it can't hover dark. Maybe it'll hover, because it's already pure white, maybe it'll hover gray like that. And then everything else kind of just stays the same here. And then on top of this blue background, it's going to be light. And then it'll hover dark, and then the text color here, the background color, let's see, whenever we hover it on, I think for whenever it's on a blue background, it can just hover. We can make it hover dark like that and make it hover white, so that'll make this go a slightly off gray for the hover here, black here, and then here it'll hover black like that. What is the hover here? It's just a little bit lighter of a color for the hover there. I'm probably gonna do, let's change that a little bit. Let's go themes. So for the primary button, I'm gonna make its text color be white, its background be black when it's on a blue background, and it can hover. This is fine. It can hover like that. And then for this one, I think what I'm gonna make it do is just match. I'll see if we make it match. A lot of these hover states weren't quite figured out in the design, so I'm just trying to figure them out here. So yeah, I think instead of making it hover dark, I'll make it hover a gray on top of that blue background and just see how that looks. And let's see what that looks like here. Yeah, so that's good. This is good. Yeah, it can just be a subtle thing. It doesn't have to be anything too much for this one. Cool. Yeah, I think I'm okay with all these. I may refine them a little later, but that's good there. And then yeah, this is gonna, I want this entire thing to trigger the hover on the button inside, so I'll give it a data trigger hover and focus, and that should make it, let's see, it's not triggering there because I don't have a clickable element yet. Let me drop in a clickable. There we go. You can tell it's very subtle, but it is triggering that. And then I could take this a step further and also maybe scale it down just for this instance. I don't need to do that to every button throughout the site, but for this one, let's go transition. Oops, transition and transform. And let's go ahead and do a transform. And let's go scale. And we'll do calc. And we'll say 1 minus 0.2 times 0. And then we'll switch that 0 to being off, like so. And so that way when we hover, it just kind of does that. Let's make that a little less extreme, 0.1. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, and that only triggers whenever we have the clickable component. If I turn the clickable off, it's not going to trigger like that. That was more of a recent update, so that if we have things like a card component, for instance, if that card doesn't have a link, which I think some of them don't, like if I go to this card, where's my card components? Right here. So yeah, see how it gets the hover, but as soon as I turn the link off, which I can do right here, then it has no hover. So that way that part is automatically handled for us. So it's just if there's a link inside being hovered, that's when the hover interaction triggers. Yeah, so that is why I need that clickable in there. And that just kind of makes this whole part clickable, which is what I want. That's good. And let's see. One thing that I do want to do is inside here, I'm going to connect the clickable visibility up to a component prop, clickable visibility, and create. Since I already have this clickable, I don't want double things because that's just going to mess up the accessibility. So I'm just going to remove the clickable on this button inside, and that way I'm using this parents one instead. Cool. And then let's go back here. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that section. And then let's go to this one. I'll go ahead and just drop in. I think this one honestly could be built with an open component. There's really no reason why it couldn't. So this might be the first open component I'm using for the project. So we'll drop a section, and then inside we're going to have this heading. This heading is going to have this graphical element, and I think I'm going to want to build that as a custom heading. I do have, and I added this recently because we needed to use it for like CMS fields. I have a plain text version of typography plain. And I could use that here because I'll need to be able to add this SVG inside. So what I could do is add a slot, and I could give this, let's call this something like, we'll call this text graphic potentially. And I'll give this a class of hide if empty, so it's automatically set to display none unless it has something inside. And then that could be where I put the SVG inside that slot, so I can get a different one each time. And let me see, is this a H2? Okay, switch that over here, move that into the section, and go ahead and copy this. I'm gonna need to, let's see, what can I do? It's got this rotate, but I think I'm gonna bake that into the SVG itself. So I'll just outline the stroke and then copy as SVG. And then I'll go ahead and run SVG import, and I'll paste that in. And so this is our SVG. I'm trying to make it where I can change out the SVG I'm using in different places and change the offset, I think, because here it needs to offset past the bottom a little bit. So its positioning and its offset might be different each time we use it. I guess for now, let's see how I want to do this. This isn't really an icon that I'm reusing in other places. This is more of a one-off. So for now, I'll just call this, what did I call the other one? Text. What do we call this one? Text graphic. So this is going to be, I'll treat it kind of like a custom component. So this is going to be text arrow, and it can have a width of 2em or whatever the em size I want is. So it's based off the parent. And let's give it a display of inline. Can't do that. Why can I not? Because it's inside of a flex parent here. So let's move that outside of the flex parent. And now I can switch it to inline block. And let's give it a color. And let's go here. And I'll call this something like icon. I don't want to call it icon because it's not an icon. It's more of a graphic. So I'll have these little graphical elements. It's probably a better name, but I'll just call it graphic arrow for now. And I'll put that in my SVG group and create. And so now I can take that and I should be able to paste it into the slot here inside of typography. And I'll call this slot SVG, and I'll give it the area hidden so we're not accidentally reading it. True. And the SVG itself, let's see, let's go to the base variant. Let's go to that base class. Let's switch it to, if I do inline block here, yeah, if I do inline block here, then it's not gonna, it's gonna override the hide if empty, which is not what I want. What I'll probably do then instead, just give this a display contents. That'll simplify things quite a lot. So we completely ignore this div, and that way this graphic goes right into the parent, and I can control everything from here. So now I can do 0.1em and -1em. Let's see, that might be too much. Let's see, what do we want to do? Back this down a little bit, like that, kind of. Yeah, it's supposed to be right here. So let's see about increasing the size a little bit and then increasing the negative margin a little bit. Let's see what that might look okay. And so basically when get connected wraps, because like the text is inline block and the SVG is inline block, this SVG stays with that where they stay connected. Haha, no pun intended. And then so that's good. And then in here I'll just have a grid, so that'll be much easier. We'll drop a grid in there. We'll give it a, what do we want to give this? It can be, so I'm trying to decide if I want this to be a grid or if I want it to be a slider. I'm leaning towards a slider on mobile, so might just move that into a slider for now. We can always change that later. And the controls can go away, don't need those. And the card, go ahead and drop that in and duplicate it over a few times. And then slides per view is going to be 3. Can stay 3 on our medium screen size. And somewhere here it's switching to 2. I might want that to switch to 2.5. Let's see if that's getting, it is getting a little too tight there, 2.2 maybe. Just wanted to be able to see a little bit of that next card. For the content we have, I think it'll be fine, like the type of card we're going to have. And then here I'll do 1.1 just to see a little bit more of that next card in view. Yeah. for that 2.2, I might change that. Let's go, because it is really tight. Let's go 1.5 or something like that. That's a little bit better. And then it'll go there. Cool, that looks good to me. Nice. And for the cards here, so I recently added the variant for a background image like so. Don't think I have a variant like this, so that would be a good one to add. So let me go here. We have default, we have background image, and not sure what to call this one. For now, I'll call it top image, but I'll probably rename that. So then we have where's the border? It's on this element here. Yeah, so the border is transparent by default, and then whenever we hover the card, it's switching to theme text, so it's switching to solid. So the border for this variant would just not exist, so we'd remove the border, and the border radius is set on a parent somewhere here, so we would just zero that out. And the image is here. So what I might need to do is I might need to wrap this in, this one was called content. I might call this, I'll just call this text. And then these will go in here. And then what we can do is we can set this to card image was absolute. Let's switch it to relative. Let's remove the negative z index. Let's give it aspect ratio. Why is it not showing up? Oh, it's display none on this variant, so we'll switch it to block. Let's take off the padding on this element. Zero that out here. And let's do, we might need to wrap that image in a div too. Let me give this some, for now I'll do top margin. Space is going to be up a little bit, like that. And yeah, because the image is set to scale on hover, which is good. I want to keep that for this variant. I just want it wrapped in a parent div that masks it. So I can do that here. So this is called hero primary image. I'll wrap in div called card primary visual. So we'll style it first on the base variant. It was position absolute. Actually, it doesn't need any styling on this variant, so I'm just going to display none there. And then on this variant, it can be block, and it really doesn't need any other styling there either. I can switch it to position absolute just to, because why not? -1, but it doesn't need too much styling there. And then here, this is where it needs position, what needs display block, position relative, overflow clip, and I would honestly move the aspect ratio on to, let's see, let's clear some of this out. So I'm going to remove the negative z index and the position absolute. Position absolute can stay. The ratio can go away, and I want that ratio on this element here. There we go. And then for this, the text element, we're going to have an arrow, and I can go ahead and set this to flex, space apart. We're not going to have paragraph text on this. So I'll call this, rename this to card bottom. And then let me grab that arrow. I think this is the arrow I already have in the clonable. So I'll call this card primary arrow. And we'll go ahead and drop the arrow element, icon arrow. Nope, not that one. Let's go icon arrow full. Nope, okay, yeah, I don't have that arrow in there. So what I'll probably do then is replace icon arrow full with this one. So we'll copy as SVG. We'll open icon arrow full, and we'll open that component, and we'll launch SVG import, paste that in, and let's see. This is not matching the border width used throughout the site, I don't think. These are kind of a one-off, so I might not leave that connected to the stroke path component. So let me just copy the view box off this one and bring it over to the main SVG. And then let's take the paths and just move them up. Delete this, delete those two. And let's see, that should be okay. Why is it not? Let me undo. Let's see. The view box is matching up. Yep. And the width is the same. Nothing changed there. And then I can delete those paths, and that should have been it. Oh, maybe I just need to put this in component. Yep, that was it. All right, so base variant, the arrows are not there. On this variant, the arrows are there, and they are almost 10 pixels wide. And they can have don't shrink or grow. And they can be block. Okay, yeah. And then this, I'm going to have card primary text here. All right, put the heading and paragraph together in there so that they can stack under each other. Take the bottom and align it to the top. I believe that was how it was, pretty much. Yeah, for the most part. And then this is going to have, probably going to have to replace these component elements with actual text elements here. So this is going to be a custom element, and then it's going to be card title, and then I'll connect that to the heading text, and I'll connect its tag to heading tag. Visibility isn't connected to anything there. And then it can have the, let's go H4 style, something like that. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll drop the paragraph, or actually it'll be a rich text right in here. Here we are. Let's see. Call that paragraph, and then I'll connect that to the paragraph text, and then paragraph visibility, and then I'll delete that and delete that, and then I'll give this some margin bottom text so that spaces it out. And then when I switch over to this variant, now I can change this, and that's going to be an H5 style. So we'll go over to, let's see, I might have to remove these classes for a second and switch the text style over to H5 on this variant, and then I can leave that all on. That's good there. And yeah, that looks okay there. Let me see, let me add a little bit of space, padding. Yeah, that's looking all right. And then I'm gonna put the actual margin on, where is it? Here. Instead of the utility, I'm just gonna apply that here. So we'll have typography, and then we'll do, let's see, where are we? That's our trim. This is our font size, and we're looking for text style. There we are, margin bottom. And that way on this variant, I can more easily override the spacing there to be a smaller space. Let's go space of 2 or 3. See what that looks like. It's a little bit better. And then let's just switch out the image element for a second. And let's switch out the text. And that can go here. And let's go ahead and hide the paragraph. And I think that's good. I'll delete the other two. The image opacity, I had that set because I wanted to reduce the opacity of this image some, but only when it's a background image. So I'll remove that 60% opacity there, and I'll move it over to the background image variant instead. There we go. And so that's good. Then we'll just duplicate that over a few times, and the ratio here, we're looking at 4.1 by 4.9 roughly. So that'll be here. Custom 4.1, 4.9, and let's see. Let's copy this. The font sizes are looking a little bit large, so I might need to change that. Let's see, let's paste that in there. Yeah, the font sizes feel a little bit large. I know I am zoomed in here, but let me see. All right. Let's see, let's go here. Yeah, my interaction isn't triggering. I gotta fix that. Yeah, even here they feel large. Let's see if they're the right size. Let's inspect. Let's go to the heading. Let's go compute it. Font size is 23 pixels. I mean, I am zoomed in. There we go, 24 pixels. And I'm pretty sure that's what they were here too. 24, yep. The arrow feels really small. Maybe it's just, I guess it was that way in the design. I don't know, it feels unusually small. Let's see. I'm gonna change the default text of this component to this paragraph one here. Let's edit that default text to be much shorter. So that can go away here. And let's edit the default heading text to be shorter as well. All right, I might just have to roll with that, but let me see. Yeah, I guess that's it. Okay. It feels like there's a little extra space here, and I think it's coming from the bottom margin on the heading, which is here. So anytime we hide the paragraph, that's what's happening. So I can just give this a class of U margin trim, and that'll remove the bottom margin from the heading, or it should. Let's see. Let me make sure I applied it to the right elements. Yeah, that's on the parent here. Oh, no, I put it on the wrong element. Here it is. Class, U margin trim, and then that should remove it. There we go. Okay. Let me go ahead and just export these out here. Someone asked, taking a look at the chat, what browser I'm using. This is Dia browser. Yes, that's correct. Advantage of using SVG import, you get to link the colors of the SVG to your variables so that if the client changes the color in the variable panel, the SVG also updates. Or if you like animate the variable, again, the SVG will update. Let's see. Cool, this is good here. Yeah, I'm gonna size them. This might honestly be a little too large. I like to size them up a little bit larger. Let's go there. That's fine. All right, and then I'll just export this, and then this one as well. Cool. All right, let me export those out. And then they're all going to be exported as a JPEG. And then let's export them into assets and run them through TinyPNG, which is right here. Desktop, assets, and all of these. All right. It's amazing how much file size it loses when we do that. Gonna delete all of that. And then just download these. And then go ahead and just upload them from here. That's going to be in downloads. All right. Let me replace that here. And then we have this one and this one. Let's see. They are a little large. I'm going to compress them over to WebP. Oops. Cool. Cool. So yeah, that's that section, and got that component built out. And then the footer here, I can go ahead and set that up too. Let me take a break and switch over to the nav. I think that's going to be, and then on this section too, I'm going to remove that bottom space, and this one can stay because of the image. Yeah, that's good. Cool. So let's go ahead and build out the nav. So I'll drop in that nav and bring that up, and then the copy over the logo, copy as SVG. Go ahead and run that inside of SVG import, and then give that the same SVG utility. And let's go ahead and increase the width on this. Looks like it should be 203. So let's do that. 203. Cool. Let me go to, so I have the background color on the nav as a variable because it's also used for drop downs and just a bunch of different places. So let's go into themes. Let's go to nav background and switch that over to the background 2 for that theme. So it's white. And let's remove the border, which is right here. Can clear that out. And let's go over here. Oops, and I can remove the border on this one too. That's the desktop nav. And that is over here. Cool. So this one's interesting because basically this background color has to stay with these links, but it can't be a part of this button or the search. So let me change this out too. I'll change out some of the text on this. So this will be give. I don't need this one. Actually, I'm going to swap this because this has a combo class for some styling. And then the search is going to be its own thing, but it's going to be over here. The language switcher, I'm just going to turn the visibility of that off. And the action, that's all for the actions. And then the link wrap is its own thing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So what I'll need to do, I think, then, just for the desktop nav is going to be a little different. The background color will probably get removed off of this element, and its radius can also be probably removed. Yeah, actually, yeah, I'll keep the radius, but I'll remove the padding, nav spacing inner, horizontal, and I'm going to put that on this element, not the layout. The layout houses all of this stuff, the link houses that, and the menu wrap houses that. Let's zero out the gap. Let's give the logo, desktop logo, a background color of nav, nav background. Let's give it a radius. This is why I want to keep that radius on the parent, because I will do inherit here. I'll need to, instead of creating a separate variable called nav radius, I'll just let it inherit from its parent. So this one would have a border radius inherit, and then that allows that radius to match there. And then the link can have some padding, space, inner horizontal like that. And I guess I could give the link some padding on all sides. Just the only reason is when we tab onto it, I want the focus outline to look good. So I'll leave that on all sides. And then here, on desktop, border radius inherit, on this element here, this is where on the desktop variant, I can attach the background color of nav background and give it some border radius on this side of inherit and on this side of inherit. And so that rounds off that side, and that side keeps the give button separated. And this the link here. This is the same class used on all links, but I have the search icon inside. I could probably make this be, yeah, this is, I'm trying to think if I should apply this style to both desktop and mobile. I think so. So across every version, let's go here. The width is 64. So that'll be right here. And the ratio will be square. And we'll do flex center. And then the icon search, I'll need to wrap in a div. Search inner. This should really be, this should be button. And then the child should be icon. And then this goes in here. Oops. Right there. And then the icon gets a width of roughly 18. Like so. Let's see, why is that not applying? Oh, there, yeah, it did. Cool, and then the background color on this is going to be connected to nav background. Border radius can just be round. And that's good for that variant. And let's see. I don't need all this extra padding, so I'm probably going to give this a class of is search. And because this is the same class used on the nav link elsewhere throughout the site. Or I wonder if I just remove. I'm going to keep it on there because on mobile, I might want that. Let's see. Let's see if we take it all off. I might take it off. Nav drop down search. Let's see what that would look like if I zero that out. And then the gap here is going to be probably even 16 and 16. Yep. So here I did, well, let's see. This is main. I can remove that. I can remove that. I can give this a gap of site gutter. Might as well. Actually, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do gap inherit like that. And that way it inherits the gap on this parent, which is, wait, So this inherits the gap. Where did I just apply that? So that should have been on this element here. Yep, here we are. And then so this element, I can set the column gap to be a gutter, site gutter. Yeah, so when I do that, it should change both. Why is it not changing both? Oh, this needs... Actually, I'm not really sure why it's not changing both. Gap inherit. That should have worked. Why is that not working? Move. Oh yeah, okay, it is working. So I adjust the gap on this parent and it affects the gap on the child. Yeah, I don't know why that didn't work before, but yeah, so that's one. And cool. And then the search and all this stuff is anchored to the other side, which that's an easy fix. We just go here and anchor to the right. And then maybe a little bit more padding. Yeah, it's hard to tell because they're overlapping. There's negative margin, which makes it really hard to test this. Let's see. Nope, can't do that. Well, when all else fails, good old-fashioned draw a box. So roughly 40, so that's roughly 20 on each side, which, I mean, I can do that here, might as well, and then go 20, and apply that to both sides, and that gives us that gap there. And then on this text element, it really needs the H6, so I guess we can give that H6 class. Did I not set my H6 to all caps? There's a good chance I didn't. I did not. Okay, so fix that there. Uppercase. Nice. And then the letter spacing should be tighter. Which it is. Letter spacing is normal, so switch that over to tight. Okay. And then let's just throw that same H6 class on each of these. Cool. And then, yeah, I'm not really sure what type of drop downs are going to be in here yet, but I don't think it's going to be the mega drop down. So let's rename this mega drop down and let's set it to visibility hidden so it's still there if we need it later on one day. But for now, it's going to go in the junk drawer. Cool. And then let's copy this, paste that there. Oops. Copied this, paste it in here. And this is going to be another drop down, so I'll duplicate this one, move that up, connect, watch. Time to take a look at the comments. Someone said, have I ever tried WordPress and Elementor? I've never tried Elementor. Before I discovered Webflow, I built a couple client sites on WordPress, and I still have maintenance issues on those sites to this day where plugins get outdated and the client texts me saying something's broken. So I won't be going back to WordPress. But if I did have to use WordPress, I definitely wouldn't use Elementor. I'd probably use something like probably use something like Bricks is probably the closest to Webflow. Other question, do you always componentize everything? Yes, always, because it allows the client to use build mode. It also makes sure that your site's scalable. So even if you think something's a one-off section, the client might one day copy that and bring it to a new page. And if that's not a component, it's easy for like the required elements to not get grouped together. Like they might forget to copy the code that goes with it or something like that. So I make every section a component. For super custom design sections, it can take a bit more time. For basic building block sections, it can be a little bit faster. And once you get your variants, like once I have this card variant that I created, I spent quite a lot of time on it, but I'll be able to reuse that a lot throughout the site as the site grows. So it's worth it to spend the extra time up front. I think, yeah, I think that was the only other questions. Cool. Back to this. So let me go here. I'm going to add just a little bit more padding because I feel like this is more than what it's showing here. Let's see. So altogether we have 32 or 35, and then I have 20 here. Let's see. Yeah, so I need 15. So I'll do 15 here. Cool. And that just gives us a little bit more space there. Nice. Yep, and that is good there. Yep, that works for what I need there. Let me build out the footer. So I'll go ahead and drop that footer in. Let's go ahead and give it a class here. U theme dark. Nice. And let's give it a size. This should be 203. 203. Okay. The follow us is a H5. Switch that out right now. The social links, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Honestly, they'll never have LinkedIn, so I'm just going to delete that. And X, I'll go ahead, call this social X, and I'll just go ahead and hide that just in case. This can be social Facebook, just to give us some anchors. Social Instagram and social YouTube. Cool. And then they actually the designer used this component, it looks like, that I already have here. So, I mean, that speeds things up quite a lot. Let's go ahead and copy this. And let's paste it into here. Let's include that space. Good. This is a text style small is set to medium. I don't know if that's the case everywhere we're using text style small, or if this should be, I mean, it was set that way in the variable, so it just seems like a strange default to have on that style. Let's see, where are we? So text style small is, I guess we'll go ahead and just set it to medium. Why not? And cool, that's good there. And then privacy, terms and conditions, sitemap, all of that's still the same. This stuff is an H6, which I think it might already be here. Yep, cool. Cool. Yeah, so that helps speed things up quite a bit too. I think just to make this a little bit more client friendly, because it's easy to accidentally delete or duplicate a list item when you actually, or a link when you actually need to duplicate the item, and different things like that. And also, like, if I need to make a change here, I would have to go back to every single instance. So I think what I'm gonna do is make this a component. So I'll call this something like footer group, and this can go in our miscellaneous, and we'll create, and we'll go ahead and call this title. That's good. First prop, always visibility on any component for the whole component itself. And then I have the list element, which is a UL. I'll go ahead and switch this out for a slot, and I'll go ahead and give this a footer group list. Footer group list. And I'll have to switch to the role equals list approach, unfortunately, for that. And then this will have to be just a regular div with a role equals list item. Okay. And then I'll go ahead and create a component out of this called footer link and put that in miscellaneous, copy. And I'll go ahead and name this slot to be footer link so we know what goes in there. Delete those, copy, delete. Whoops, the slot is right here. So this is footer link. Okay, delete. And just go ahead and paste that in here. And then I can go ahead and connect the visibility to a prop. I can connect the text on this element to a prop. And I can connect the link to a prop as well. Let's see. All right, and then let's duplicate that a few times over and then copy this. So we have our church, we have here students, and then oops, next steps. This is all for the connect. So I'll go ahead and delete these groups, duplicate this group, change this one. This one's going to be connect. And then the links here, next steps. And then I'm going to have groups. Let's copy that. Right here. Baptism and copy, paste. This is the type of stuff that I would like AI to do. All the repetitive, boring stuff. I don't want it to build sections for me. I want it to do this stuff. All right, paste that in. Paste that in. All right, it's resources. That was the last one. So I need to edit this grid because it's supposed to only be spanning, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. That is going to be on this element, I believe. Yeah, it's spans 6. And I can just make this one span 6 as well. So it's really just a 50-50 split. I don't want to do that actually because then the auto fit grid kicks in there. So what I'll do, grid column will say start on 7 and span 6 like that. Just push that over without increasing the width of the other one. And then that way that can kind of still do its thing. Let's see. Let's go here. Yeah, we're running into a weird thing where the point that these wraps isn't quite where I want it to wrap. Let's see if I can do. So on this layout, I have a U-grid above, and it's set to be based off a container threshold large. Let's try threshold medium and see what that looks like. So basically, these will kind of wrap, which I like that. And then they'll stack somewhere there, somewhere here. Yeah, I still don't love how it does this. It's because we switched our grid from a 2 column to 3. I might honestly remove this feature where the socials can go on side of the logo. So let's see, let's go here. We have an auto fit grid, and I can just remove that, keep the gap row inherit, switch to a vertical flex, and I removed the column span. So let's go grid, let's go grid column, and let's go span 6, and then this can honestly just span. This doesn't need a start. The whole thing could have been, since it's an even split now, it could have just been a, yeah, I'm going to simplify it. Let's delete that and delete that, and then switch this whole parent to a 2-column grid. There we go. And just to simplify it some, so that's just going to stack under each other somewhere there. That looks good to me. This border is black, but I don't think that's intentional. I'm just going to switch it for now to, let's go to theme, theme border, like that, so it's faded. And then if I need to remove it later, I can. But that's good there. Yep, that works there. Cool. So that's that. And then I have some of these pages to build out as well. It's a really simple, it's just a 4-page thing. So let's see. Let me go ahead. I guess I'll start on this next one. So let's go over here. I'll go ahead and just duplicate this one, and this is going to be about, and we'll create, and this logo is a bit small on mobile, so I might back up, increase the mobile logo size a little bit. Let's go something like that. Cool. And then this is also even here, I need the nav position. I'm going to switch the default nav position to be overlap, so it's position fixed instead of sticky, and that way it kind of just overlaps like that. And then that means on home, and I switch the padding top to be page top, like that. That's good there. And then here I can delete. Oh, let me fix that. That scroll interaction wasn't triggering. Let's go into interactions, advanced options, and uncheck the clamp. Let's see if that handles that. Yeah, there we go. All right. I still have the padding not set on this one, but cool. Let's see what else. So we have this one here. I think I want to build that custom section as well. Yeah, I think that'll probably be a custom section. And then this is going to be the slider component. Yeah, all right. Let's do it. Delete. Let's go section. Just recently switched to using the custom element, so I still always default to using the actual one. Let's go here. Let's go here. This is going to be hero. It's really only used. I mean, technically these could be the same component with a variant, but for simplicity's sake, I'll probably make them different. So hero secondary wrap, and then this can be hero secondary contain, and then I'll give it the uContainer class, and I'll go ahead and in here, let's see what we want to do here. For mobile, I think this is another instance where I'm going to have to change the layout some on mobile. Yeah, more than likely. So really, it could be anything to have some more simplicity this time. I'm probably going to make this span these columns, and then the visual is just going to span 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 columns. Okay. All right. Let's drop in a div. Secondary layout, ugrid custom. We'll drop in a div, call it hero secondary content, and this can span grid column. Oops. Oh. Grid column, span 8, and then let's go ahead and drop in a heading for now, and here we'll have a grid column. Well, this will be a secondary visual wrap, and this can have grid column and then span 4 like so. And the bounding box on this is going to be, let's see, it's going to be somewhere over here. So it'll go from here to here to here. See if we change that a little bit. Oh, it's underneath something. Oh, it's inside of something. Let's try that here. Yeah, this isn't quite aligned. Let's see if we can get this aligned here. That's good. And this is good. And then this will work here. Yeah, I think my bounding box was slightly off last time, so this time I'm trying to make sure I got it spot on. So then I can delete and paste over here. Oops. There we go. Cool. Send that to the back and back down the opacity. All right. So the ratio on this is going to be, let's go ratio, let's go custom. We're looking at 4.37 by 4.79. And that can have position relative, and I'll just give it that same outline from before, just so we can see it. And let's increase that a little bit. Why is that not working? That is the outline on the visual wrap. Let me, why is that not working? Preview, works inside preview. Oh, is it has no children, maybe it's collapsed. There we go. I think it's a Webflow default thing. All right, so let's go ahead and drop a div again, follow a similar process. So this will be hero visual element, and then this will have a width. Let's see if these are the same width. They're both, yeah, about the same width, 418. It's almost the width of the parent. So we'll do 418 divided by 437. So that's here. 418 divided by 437. And so that's 95%. And then this needs its own custom ratio, 418, 494. 418, 494. Okay. And then this can be position absolute to top corner. And then I'll have the image element inside here. This can have a cover, and it can have, doesn't need a skeleton. Actually, I guess I'll leave that. Let's see, let's leave that on. Skeleton background. And then the transform and everything will be here, and it'll be set with %. And then I can duplicate. I can call this one is 2, and this one is the exact same ratio, and the only thing that changes is the positioning, really. So let's go here. Let's transform, move it up a little bit, like that, and over, and also rotate. Rotate here, move it down, switch it to rotate, and this is going to be 917. 917. Okay, And then the other one is 902. And that is going to be the other way, negative 902. And then it can move down some. All right, cool. So let me switch those images out just so I can see. Let's see, that's rotate 0. Rotate 0. Looking at the question, someone said, why do you use grid and not display? Can you clarify what you mean by that? Grid allows us to align things to specific columns. So I guess display, you mean display block? Not sure. Let's see. We scale this up. That's too large. Let's see what's the size on each image right now. Oh no, oh actually that's good. All right, let's export that JPEG. And I'll go ahead and just name this image 1. I'll have to rename these later. And JPEG, do image 2. And let's go here to TinyPNG again. I already have it up. Here we are. Refresh. And go into Files. Nope. Desktop. Assets. Image 1, image 2. Here we are. Clear these out. And let's upload those. All right, you press them. All right, and then this can go. This can go here. And this can go here. All right, where else are we? Let me back down the opacity of these for a minute, and that way I can kind of see where it's supposed to align better. And I'll move this over, up and over a little bit more. So it should be somewhere there, something like that, and like this. Somewhere there, I think that's the right spot. Oh wait, I'm basing it off of the wrong thing. All right, let's see. Down more. All right, this should be, head should be peeking over a little bit. And then this should be slightly out, that element there. And then for this one, should be hand and chin goes there. Let me move that over. And then move that down. All right, I think that is pretty close there. And then I'll bring the opacity up over here. All right. And then I think that's good for that layout. Cool. And then I'll copy this. I think this is the same shape and same rotation, same everything used on the home page. So I might go ahead and make that a component. And let's see, let's just duplicate it. So I'll wrap it in a div that can set like the size and position and stuff. And then this will have the USVG utility, and then it'll be a component. called graphic star, and it can go in the SVG folder with the other graphic, and then I can move it into the hero SVG, and then that should go there. And then so now if I search graphic, I should have the star one, and let's drop it in here, call it SVG, drop this in, position it absolute to the bottom corner of this element, which is also absolute, give it a color, and give it a size, which is probably very similar in size. Let's outline stroke, 93 and 418. Width 93, 418. All right, that's 22%. And then this image needs to be, let's see, this one here. You can have a combo class of is1, and it can be on a higher z index. And then I can move the star down and over a little bit using percent. So over here and over here, like that. Something like that's good. And then, yeah, that should be good for that. Then I can remove that outline. Let's see. And that should bring that back in. Gonna look over questions real quick. Bring the volume up. I saw a note about that. I can bring that up a little bit. For the footer, is it not easier with a display row than make it a column when tablet? Display flex row. I think with Flexbox, it's possible to make all the items the same size, but it's much harder. Like if I wanted the two evenly sized columns on desktop with Flexbox, I would have to have a flex here, and then I would have to make sure each column has a width of 100%, so they fill all the space, and a min of 0, because if you don't include that, then the content can affect the size. It might not always be a perfect split. And then from that, I could duplicate the column, and it should do two evenly sized for the most part. But anytime you're dealing with, like, I want two elements to be evenly sized, usually I just use grid what it's good for, and grid is meant for that type of thing, so it just makes more sense to use grid for that. Let's see. Let's go here. Let's go ahead and call this. I'm going to turn this into a component. Actually, let me just do this. I'll switch it here for now. Let's copy this. And so this one is another instance where I really don't, I don't want to make this like a container query with font size like I did on the home page if I don't have to, just because accessibility wise it's not always the best. I want users to be able to zoom it. So I'm going to try and use the default font size here and just kind of let it wrap. But one thing I can do is get the line wrap looking the way it's supposed to look based off the design. So I wonder if I could do, let's see. I'm going to see if I can use a max width utility and see if that'll get it close enough. Yeah, that seems pretty close to what I need. And then the font size is display. What I might do is just do a custom value in here. So let's see, what's the display set to? 7. Let's see if we go up a little bit higher. Gonna zoom out for a second. Display is gonna be 9. Yeah, it's going to overflow a little bit into that. And then as we go down to mobile, I'm going to want to make it much smaller. Let's see how small we can make it. We can't go too far. Yeah, we can't go too far. We'll go as far down as we can. Yeah, the font sizes in this design are really large. I'm going to back it down a little bit. We'll go 8.5. That'll allow me to get it a little bit smaller on mobile. Cool. Yeah, we're going to roll with that. And then this, I can just let it wrap whenever. So let's go embed CSS. Let's detach. And I'll do at container. And I'll go if the width is smaller than 50M. Go ahead and on this element, which is here, layout, display flex. Cool. Yeah, and then we'll change the ratio and everything else about this here. So let me see. The ratio is quite tall, so I'll probably want to back that down some on this breakpoint. Going to do something similar to what I did on desktop. So I'll have aspect ratio of 3 by 2.5, something like that. See what that looks like. Whoops. Okay, I want to close that. Yeah, so that I think, nope, let's see. That's the visual wrap. 3 by 2.5. Yeah, that should have been good. Let's see. Everything is absolute inside that. Yeah, it is. Okay, I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. Let's go 3 by 2 and see what that looks like. So that is this size. I think that's good. And then I'll just need to back down the size of the image elements. So that'll be here. I'll set the width to, we'll try 70%. We'll try 50%. Yeah, that's going to give us more space to work with. Let me go back here and set that outline back on real quick. And then I'll just position the images how I want on mobile. Someone asked, how would you approach learning Lumos as someone who hasn't used it? I would say go through the crash course. So there's a brand new crash course on Lumos. If you go through that, you would build out a web page with me by the end of it. So you can go through this crash course. Actually, sorry. This is the crash course that shows you how Lumos works. This is the new one where you build out a web page using the latest version of Lumos. So I would actually probably first watch and learn about the framework and then dive into actually building a site with it. But I would follow that process. Cool. So let's go here. Let's go down to mobile. See how this is anchoring towards the top? I could actually anchor this bounding box to the bottom when there's less space. So there's a couple options. One is anchor the bounding box to the bottom, and the other is making the layout wrap sooner so the text isn't allowed to get this crammed. So I could just make the layout wrap somewhere over here to fix that, but I'll figure that out after. So let's see. So here, let's go styles, and let's just kind of position these where they need to be. So on this one, I'm gonna, well, the key here is we want to make sure that the images mostly just kind of fit within that bounding box. They can overflow a little bit, but we don't want them to overlap content. So let's go here, and let's go here and bring that up a little bit. Yeah, honestly, I'm okay with something like that. I can always refine it later if needed, but this works here. So that'll be for the second image on mobile. So I'll go ahead and say, let's go ahead and copy that class is 2, and then we'll go ahead and just paste that in. We'll copy the transform, and paste that in there. And then I'll do the same thing for the first one, and I'll copy the transform on that one, which is right here. Here, copy that and paste that into here. All right, so that when it wraps, they get this kind of layout here. Now the point that it wraps, I might try and do 55 potentially, so it wraps a little bit sooner. So basically it would shrink a little bit, and see that word is kind of wrapping there. I might want it to break right before that word wraps. So that was at, let's try 57, see what that does. Save it. And yeah, that looks a little bit better. So it kind of just stacks right there. And that looks good. And that continues all the way down. And yeah, that works. So that's good there. And then I can go ahead and take this off here. Cool. And then for the component, we're just going to connect. Let's create this as a component. This will be section, hero, secondary, and that'll go inside the section group. And then this will have the, I'm going to reset the default on this variant to main, and then this will be padding top, and then this one will be padding bottom, and then let's see, visibility on the prop can go here, and then let's see what else we got. The heading text, the heading has some margin, which I'm just gonna, just in case I need this, I'm just gonna throw margin trim on this content block, and then I'll connect the heading here, and this will go in a group called heading, and it'll be called heading text. And then I'll have a group here. This honestly can be this can just be image 1, and then I'll have image 2 here, and then I'll have the image loading will be a prop. Image loading can be a prop, and then that'll be also on this, connected to the same prop, so that when the section's used at the top of the page, we can make both images eager load from one prop, and we can update the padding top like that, and that looks good there. I think what I'll do, because I forgot to do image loading on this one, so let me do that here. I'll put that in a prop, image loading, and I'll connect each image to that same prop here, and then I'll set this instance all images to eager load like that. Cool. And then I think that's good for that. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and build out the slider section. This is interesting because the slider could be marked up as its own section, but it has no heading, so I could add like a screen reader only kind of heading here that's hidden, or I could tag wise, I could group this section in together, these two, which I think content wise it makes more sense for them to be grouped, because this starts out the story and then this continues that story. So it probably is It probably makes sense to have these all in one section, but I do want to give them the flexibility to use this slider independently as its own section. So let's see how we want to do this. Couple ways, like one option is connect the tag up to a prop and then just make this a regular div in this instance, and then wrap it in like a block wrapper component like that with the slider section. So those two get wrapped together and they're both just regular divs, but then they're wrapped in a parent that's set to a tag of section. And that's one way to group it together with separate components. Another option though is I might just add a slot in here where I can just drop in the slider component into that slot, and that way the slider can be used outside of this section as well. So I think I'll handle it that way for now. So I'll go ahead and drag the slot, and I'll give this let's give this hero secondary slider for now, and I'll give this class of hide if empty, just so if it is empty, it's set to display none. And I'll give this some margin top. It's going to need quite a lot of margin top. It honestly would need a whole spacer div worth of spacing. So let's do that. Let's go space, and we'll grab one of the section spaces and we'll do large to space it apart for now. And then inside of this, let's just say, really, I might not want to name this slider. I might just call it extra content or something, make it a little bit more versatile in case we need other stuff in it. And then I can go ahead and drop the slider in there. It's not inside a container though. So I actually do need this to be inside the container then, like that. There we go. And so that'll do that. And then from there, I want the card components. So I'll just drop in a few card components and duplicate. And these, I think I'm just going to make this the primary card style, so it won't be an outlined card anymore. It'll be this colored card. So that's going to be here, and I'll go ahead and set it. I want to treat these each kind of like their own theme, I think. So I could give this like a U theme light if I want it. Could give this a U theme brand. That might make the most sense, and this can be U theme dark. And then within each theme, so this page is my theme light. It's gray, but its secondary background color is white. And then for dark mode, primary is this dark gray, but its secondary background color could be this color here. So that might be how I break it up, is I just set the cards to always be the secondary color within each theme. So if I go theme, and so the primary is gray, and then in light mode, the secondary background is white. And then in dark mode, primary is dark, secondary. This is kind of a little different because these are not sorted. Anytime you clone, like a fresh clone, Webflow reorganizes the variables, unfortunately. So always had to resort. Let's see, let's go here. Okay, 100, yep. Cool. I think what I'm gonna do, because this is the same, it's the same blue, it's just a very, very dark version of that blue, I believe. If I'm correct, could be wrong there. What I'll do is I'll just treat this as a dark 900. I'll just throw that color into there like that. Actually, those are not the same color. That's interesting. Let me redo. I'm gonna roll with that, and then if I need to move it to its own brand color, I will. They're very similar though. So that is Inside brand mode, I don't need to change that. Let me undo that. So this is going to be the secondary background color inside of dark mode. And then inside of brand mode, I'm just going to leave the secondary background color being the same as the primary for now. And so then what I can do is I can go to these cards and I can, where's their background color and their border? It's all here. So I'll remove the border color and everything like that. I'll switch the theme color over to background 2. And then I don't want to set the theme on the parent because that affects the focus outline. Like the focus outline on the clickable element is always the theme of the whole section. So what I want to do instead is that any themes should be set on this content element. So I'll just give this a class. I'll go class. Oh, it's already set there. So I have a content class card. So that is right here. I can just give this I can just change the theme for each of these. So I'll have a theme dark. Let me, where's that? That's right here. Let me edit the default prop on this to be uTheme light. That way the class is already on it. And then I can rename this one to dark. And then this is going to be brand. And then duplicate. And this one is going to be light or white. There we go. And then how many cards in view? We have like roughly, let's go 2.5 roughly, more or less. And then I can switch to like 1.8 on the next view. And then on the next view, it can be 1.2. And on the next view, 1.1. So that way we get a little bit at the next card, but it's, yeah, reducing all the way through. And then let me copy this and I'll just throw that in here. The heading. If you notice the, I can't click on this text to edit it. And let me just go. So for the, let's see, where are we? The z-index of that is for the clickable. I'm looking for the clickable component, which is somewhere here. That's the link. That's all just HTML tags. I probably passed it up. So I have the margin, I have the line height, rich text links, line clamp, hide if empty, focus, states, and then play button. Let me see. Here we are. Clickable is when in design mode, it's at z-index 0. And then I believe outside of design mode, let's see, where am I at? It is z-index of 3. So I can just put this content here on z-index 1, and that way it'll be above the link here. So I can click and change the text, but below the link outside of preview. That just makes it easier to change out. And then for the paragraph here, it looks like pretty much across the board, paragraph isn't really used in the components much. So what I'll do is I'll change the default visibility here to hidden on the paragraphs so that that is gone. And I can paste this in, and I want these to have an aspect ratio, so they have like a min height. So I'll just give them I'll throw that on the content for now. Let's go ratio. Let's go 3:2 for now. See what that looks like. Looks all right. And then the padding on these, I can probably go larger. That'll be here. Let's increase that padding some. Let's go padding 6. See what that feels like. 48. Yeah. And then this font size is an H4, which is a medium weight. So let's go typography. Let's go to H4. Let's make that weight. That's line height. And then our weight here is switch that over to medium. And then that should update. Sometimes you have to back in and out of preview for it to update. Let's see. Yep, there we go. Cool. And then the offset, I think what I'm going to do, let's see how we want to handle that. It's really, it should just be an if child situation, but I don't want it to apply to every slider throughout the site. So I'm trying to think if there's a way I want to handle this to turn it on and off. I already have component variants for overflow. I can make a variant for the offset, I guess. Why not? So we can call it offset slides, and that can be a variant, and then I can switch it to the offset slides variant, and then I'll inspect here. And then let's go here. Let's see, where is that? So the offset slide variant, I believe I put on the component here. So Webflow gives it this data WF slider with the value of offset slides. So if I open up my slider component and I open up the embed and I paste that in, call it offset slides. So this is how I can target the component with the correct variant. And then when we have that offset slides variant, we want to grab the card elements inside. Card elements aren't, I guess they are the direct children, so that's all I need in this case. I'm just going to grab the direct children of, let's see, this element here. Let's see, let's open that. So we'll do this element, we'll grab its direct children that are if child of even, and we'll give it a transform. Let's give it a translate of y, and let's try, I almost kind of just want to do percentage. Yeah, let me try percentage there and see what that looks like. So save that. Yeah, that's good for now. And then the arrow controls. I'm going to turn the visibility off on those because I don't think we're going to use them anywhere throughout the site. And then that'll be good there. And so now I should be able to, let's see, enable custom code. And it should have this set and good to go there. All right, we still have quite a bit of overlap going on here. I think that's dependent on screen size. Yep. So I could increase that top space. I think what I'm gonna do is we'll go with a custom value here to make space for, let me remove that class, the hide if empty, so I can just see. Let's increase this a bit. And somewhere right about there should be good. Using percent so it kind of just stays locked in across the board, and it's not like too large on mobile. It shrinks down, so that's good there. That should be good here. Cool. And then I'll give it that class of hide if empty again. Hide if empty. And then that's good there. Okay. Yeah, I think that's gonna work. This font size on the H4, I'm wondering if that matches what I have in Webflow, 40 pixels. Let's see if that is actually correct or not. Let's open up Fluid Builder. H4 font size, no, it's not. So that was updated. So let's go 40. And this is 48, so that should still look all right. And yeah, that's still gonna look good there across the board. Okay, cool. And then the next section here, honestly, might be the first one that I can build with open components. Well, other than this one, but cool. Let's see. Let's go here. Let's put that in there. Let's go ahead and, yeah, that's already set to page top. Let's drop in a section. Let's go ahead and drop a grid in here. And then let's go ahead and drop in an image element. And let's see, the ratio on this is going to be kind of tall. Let me go with, let's go with a taller ratio. Let's try 4:5. That's good for now. And let's go ahead and drop in a content wrapper. Inside the content wrapper, I'll have the heading, I'll have the paragraph, I'll have the button wrapper, I'll have the button main, and let's change out some of this text. The font size on this is unlinked. That's never a fun thing. Let's go to Fluid Builder. This was 96. I'm going to see if I have anything close enough to that. I have an 80, and then my display is much larger. Yeah, let's see. Guess we'll do a custom one. So this one, I wasn't planning on using the display for, the display's already used here. So let's see, let's go typography. Let's go here. Let's create a new size. I'll call it, I'll rename this one to display large. This one's just display. I know display is already large, so this is where it gets a little weird. So for this one, I'll paste that in there. Yeah, they're basically the same, except just let's go here. Let's go to text style. It'd be so nice if we could just, oh yeah, we can duplicate. Awesome. Cool. Settings, display large. And then I'll leave this one set to regular display, the other one set to display large, and then I will duplicate this like so. I don't like having the extra word there. I guess it's fine because I have it here for, no, I don't. I never have the extra word. All right, I'm just going to leave that for now. Display large like that. All right, and then this will just be connected to display large like that. And then the font size is still going to stay the same there. The only difference is I now need have the regular display, and that one can be the 96. Let's start decreasing it till we get to 96, right there. And then it's going to need to be somewhere in between this one and this one on mobile, probably somewhere here, just to make sure our type scale still looks okay on mobile. Let's minimize that. Yeah, there's not going to be much difference between those on mobile, but it'll just have a little bit of hierarchy. And then one thing I'll need to do is go into like the heading components, and we already have display here. I'm going to duplicate and call this display large, and then that'll be connected to display large. And then we'll do the same thing for the paragraph component. So duplicate, display large, and switch that over to display large. And also the plain text component. And again, duplicate, and then switch that out there. Cool. And so then what I'll need to do is go back over here and switch this one, go into the component, switch this over to display large again, and then leave this one at regular old display. And let's check on larger screens. I believe I want to make sure this stays wrapped, so I'll do max width of 10ch. Yep. And then uChild contain, so it moves the max width onto the child. And then all of this can go into this paragraph. If you do Command Shift V, that paste with the formatting still applied, which is helpful to make sure the line breaks stay in place. And this will be connect. Oops, this is covering it. So connect. There we are. And then this is just centered within that, which it is there. And then we'll just increase the gap a little bit. I'll go gap of 4. Let's go 6. Yeah, it doesn't need to be much. And then we'll give it a gap row of 8. We're gonna make the row gap be the largest one we have, so that way when it does wrap, it kind of goes like that. This is an auto-fit grid, which for these type of layouts, I prefer to use uGrid above, so I will clear that and go grid above, so it creates the grid above the breakpoint, and then switch the column count to being a 2-column grid. And this is wrapping pretty soon, like it's going to wrap somewhere there, which the image is going to be way too tall if we do that, and the text is going to be too wide if we do that. So let's try and do threshold medium, and so that should hold it together a little bit longer. We do have this kind of thing going on. I think I'm going to give the image so I was going to do height full like this, but then sometimes it kind of can cause overflow. Doesn't look like it is here, but sometimes it can if you give a height 100% with an aspect ratio. So I prefer to just use uCover, which is 100% width and height. So that just makes sure the width and the height don't overflow, and that's better there. Yeah, and this is good for the most part. It's going to stay like that till somewhere about here. What I might need to do is also give this image a max width of 80ch. It's too much. 60, still too much. Try 50. Oh wait, 60 did something, I think. Yeah. And then I can give it margin inline, which is margin left and right of auto to center it. And that kind of just keeps it from getting too large, I guess. And then I can also give it, let's give it an order last, so it moves to the end like that. And then let's go order unset above the breakpoint. So we unset the order above the breakpoint, and then below the breakpoint it goes underneath like so. I don't think I'm loving the max width approach, so I'm going to probably take that off there. Let me switch it over to threshold small. Let's try seeing if it wraps. It does get a little tight there for what, oh actually no, it's way too tight there. I might just change my thresholds site-wide for this site. So I have 62, 48, and 30. I might change this medium one to be something like 54. Just increase the medium one a bit. Actually, I want to decrease the medium one a bit. Yeah, so I'll go 45. 45, sure. And then let's try that with medium. Let's see what that looks like. threshold medium. All right. Yeah, that feels better. Like that breaking point to me is good. And that'll go all the way down. Another option too is just to reduce the aspect ratio some so it can become more square-like on mobile, and just let it, yeah, that way it's not like super tall, or it doesn't have to be a perfect square, but something like that. And then just add some extra padding to this element. So I can go padding block of, which is padding top and bottom of 4. Let's go 7. Let's go all the way. Let's go 8. Yep, that's good. And then when it wraps, we go all unset below, so it'll clear all the styles, including the padding below the breakpoint. And that's good. Okay, that'll work for that one. And then we have our story. So let's go here. Going to rename this based off the content, just so they can easily navigate. And then I'll drop a section in there. And this is going to be our story. For this one, I have that heading plane that I created before. Let's drop in a heading. Let's drop in plane. And then this is going to be font size. We're looking at 96, so that's the same kind of display. And our story. And I'll just throw an alignment class, alignment center on the whole section. And so inside this, I have a slot for the SVG. So I can just kind of take this SVG, which is here, I think. Yeah, it's right here. I can't outline it though for some reason, like I could the others. That's not good. I might have to request an outlined version of this. It's weird because I was able to outline all the others, but not this one. Wait, maybe it worked. Okay, there we go. Cool, that worked. Copy as SVG. And let's go ahead and make this run it through SVG import. Let's do that first. Paste that in. And then let me go and call this, let's give this a text, so I have text arrow, text graphic. I'm going to go text underline. I'll make this a custom class, and I'll make that be the same color here. And I'll go ahead and turn that into a component. And this is going to be graphic underline, and that'll go inside of my, this will go inside the SVG group and create, and go ahead and copy that, and I'll just go ahead and paste it into here. And then I can edit that component, and I can give it a width using EM, so based on the heading font size. And if I give it a display block, it should go under. And then alignment wise, I kind of want it to be, let's see, I guess I'll give it margin auto. Let's see if I do that. Yeah, that seems to be good. Cool. Yep, that'll work. And that'll put it under there. Cool. And then, let's see, we have the paragraph, which I can just copy from here. Go ahead and drop in a paragraph component. Paste that into there. Oops. Command Shift V. There we go. And then max width will have to be tighter. Let's try 50. Let's try 60. And then give it the U child contain. I'll go, let's see what options I have. Let's try 80. Yeah, 80 is probably good there for the max width. And then here we have simple 50-50 split. Let's go, yeah, let's build that out. So this is our story. Then I have our beliefs. So copy that, paste that in there, our beliefs, and I'll go ahead and just throw that in. This one doesn't need anything for the SVG. It doesn't need the alignment center. You can copy the text here, paragraph text, throw it in there. We can have a grid. This can be U grid above, so it's grid above the breakpoint. It's a 12-column grid. And I'll go ahead and probably throw a content wrapper in here. I'll go ahead and throw the paragraph and the heading. And I'll give this content wrapper, we'll give it a column start of 2. So it starts on the second column, and a column span of 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would be column 4. And then let's go ahead and drop in the, we'll call it the accordion list. And that can span 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that'll be column 6. And inside of that accordion list, I can have the accordion items. And I can go ahead and just copy this text and just paste that into here and duplicate that and just kind of duplicate it for each one. So that will be, change the text here and then here. And I'll remove the off the content wrapper, this align self-center, that'll bring it back up to the top. And then let's copy it here and duplicate, copy that there, paste that in, and then copy this and just put all those in there. Okay. So copy that, throw that in here. Quite a long list. All right. Okay, one thing I noticed is I have the button here, so I need a block instead. So what I'll do is drop in a block component, and I'll move that uColumn6 class onto the block, and then I'll move the accordion list into that, and then I'll drop a button wrapper in here, and inside that the button element, and copy the text, and then this can be a secondary style like that. Cool. And I think that's good for that one. Let's preview that. That should get our, yeah. This is getting a little too crammed there. I could change the gap, but what honestly needs to happen is, so first of all, tighten up the max width a little bit. No, the max width is good. Let's decrease this a little to see where we're at. Let's keep going. Yeah, no, we need a tighter max width. So I'll try 20, 30, 40. 40 is probably too much. Let's try 30. Yeah, I'll go 40. Okay, so that's good. And then basically, oh yeah, and here too. Let's do a max width here. Not quite tight enough. Yeah, not tight enough. What I'll do is, let's see what I can do here. Might need to create a new utility. I'll just do that over. Let's go over here. What's the font on our beliefs? That is Enter. It's a free Google font. All right. Let's see, where are we? Let's go down to sizing. So sizes are all here. Let me look for, those are all, here we are, max width. I'm going to create one that's a little bit smaller, so I'll duplicate that. I'll have a max width 8ch, and I'll duplicate that and go 8ch and change that here. And then hopefully that's enough to tighten it up. Let's see. All right. Wait. Okay, I was like, how did that wrap? But that makes sense. It was... Actually, I don't know how that's wrapping because it wasn't wrapping before. There we go. Let's go. Max width. It's not showing up yet in my drop. Oh, yeah, it is. It's right there. All right, yeah, I'll need a tighter one. Oh, wait, I have... Because this is a custom element, we're allowed to use the style tag on it for this plain one. So I can just do style. Actually, the style is already there, so I can do max width 5ch. There we go. And just dial it in here. That would have been better. 6ch. That looks good. Cool. And then the point at which this wraps is already set to, I believe, threshold large, because that's the default. So it's going to wrap somewhere here. When it does, the max width is a little bit too tight. Yeah, the max width is way too tight. I can reset the styles because there's really nothing needed here. So all unset below would clear everything. That would work if I was using a utility, but that's not going to work for, yeah, that resets the font size in this case too, which I don't want. That's not going to work for the max width. I'm going to clear that max width for now, and yeah, I'll just clear that for now. And I think I'm going to do on the whole thing, we'll go threshold medium, so these stay side by side for a little bit longer, and then they'll wrap somewhere here. Let's see. Yep. Cool. That works. All right. Okay, so that works for that one. Just a couple, just these last 2 pages, I'll be able to reuse the same kind of section here. What I might end up doing, because these are the 2 sections, is make this a closed component. So that way, if I change anything about the font size or the max width or the classes or whatever, it would update across both instances of this. So let me just do that here. I would pull this out. I would wrap this in a div, and I would turn this into a section FAQ component, and I would put that in the section group. And what I would do is go ahead and just create a slot in here, and this could have all of the settings that I need. So this is going to be FAQ content, and then this is where I want to move the column 6. So let's go grid column right here, span 6. And then I could take this, that would remove the need for a block. And I could take this out. Kind of want the button to be, yeah, this one doesn't have a button. I kind of want the button to be baked into the component, so I think, let's see. I'll keep it like that for now. So let's take this, delete, copy, and then paste that into here. And then this doesn't need anything there anymore. And then anything that I want controlled, like visibility, would go here. The padding top and bottom would go here. Probably not going to use theme controls on this. So that's another thing, is the components the variants get reorganized whenever you clone in Webflow. So I always had to reorganize those. So yeah, the padding, the text, this would be heading text. And then the paragraph, I'm going to have visibility as a prop. Paragraph. And then this is paragraph text. Cool. So that's good there. And I can take this section and move it back into here. And that way I can kind of just keep the structure and things consistent across all of them. And I think, yeah, that's good for that. Two last pages to build. I'll probably wrap those up later. But yeah, that's probably where I'll stop for today. Looking through if there was any other questions. Is it not display large for our story title? Our story title, that one was not display large. That's 96, which is regular display. Display large is this one, which is 128. Any other questions? Let's see that I might have missed. Nope, don't see anything. What would you recommend for someone who doesn't have coding experience to be able to work with and understand custom code on Webflow? I think someone mentioned Kevin Powell's YouTube channel. I'd definitely recommend that. That's where I learned a lot of CSS stuff from. When I was just starting out, W3 Schools, I learned a lot from there. If you go to W3 Schools, there's the Mozilla has their own one as well, but I find the W3 Schools is like simpler for someone who's just starting out to learn like an introduction to syntax and all of that. And I actually have an Webflow video just on intro to CSS, and it covers the stuff that we usually use CSS for in Webflow. It's the CSS crash course for Webflow. So that's the most common things that we had to write CSS for. This video is geared towards beginners and understanding that. Anything else? No other questions. Cool. All right. Thanks everyone for joining in. And yeah, thank you. And I'll see you in the next